So hi everyone, still a minute and a half until we start. But I want to start on time because we only have 20 minutes and this is something I could speak about for 20 hours. And we want to do this stuff in 20 minutes. And it's very dependent on the Wi-Fi as well. So if we were doing a live demo, live coding and stuff and downloading some stuff from the net and those kind of things. So if anything with Wi-Fi fails, we can't do the full demo. I have some video recordings, but that's not as fun. So let's give it 30 more seconds. There's still some room in front here if you want to sit down. You might be so mind blown that you need to sit. I don't know. So we can start with some hands first. How many in here are using Microsoft Teams today? Good. How many of you have developed something for Microsoft Teams, built an application or something? Okay, not that many. How many want to build something? Good, good. That's why we're here. So I think this is one of the future platforms for Microsoft 365, bringing applications into Microsoft Teams, bringing your line of business applications into Microsoft Teams, and that's what we will talk about today. So I'm going to try to build an application in Microsoft Teams, or actually two applications in Microsoft Teams in less than 20 minutes. The first one, scaffolded one, the skeleton will be built in a couple of minutes, and we'll add some logic to it. I think that's kind of fun exercise to do, to see what we can do together and see how fast and how uncomplex it really is to build a Microsoft Teams application. Of course, you can make it super complex and spend 22 minutes on it, but we'll do 20 minutes today. So, my name is Victor Wallén, I work for Avanade. I'm a Microsoft SharePoint MVP and spending quite some time with both, I would say all the services in Office 365, but specifically SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. So why do we do this, and why would we like to build applications for Microsoft Teams? Yeah, there's a couple of obvious scenarios. Of course, we want to bring our business processes, our workflows, our day-to-day activities into the conversational canvas that we have in Microsoft Teams, into the conversations, into those teams, into our group chats, etc., etc. And have Microsoft Teams as that one-stop shop for all your collaboration activities. But also, what we have seen and what Microsoft has seen is that if you bring those line of business applications into your Microsoft Teams, you will actually get a higher adoption, because then Microsoft Teams is just more than a Skype upgrade. Then it's actually something that can bring productivity to you and your company. So, can we build an application in less than 20 minutes? Absolutely, we can. There's many ways of building applications for Microsoft Teams. We go through one here. The couple of obvious choices are, of course, we have the Power Platform, so Power Apps. Then you probably can build it in 3 minutes instead, much faster. There's a couple of application templates that the Microsoft Teams team have on GitHub that you can download. You clone them, but then they are ready-built applications, so you have to reverse engineer them essentially and retrofit your application into their application. So it's a bit awkward. So they have a couple of samples for that. You can also, of course, start from scratch, Bing how to build an application in Microsoft Teams and do everything from scratch. But in this case, we will actually use a Yeoman generator that scaffolds the project for you and for the artifacts that you want to build. And makes it very easy to get started. So a Microsoft Teams app, I need to go through this fairly quick. This is sort of the architecture of Microsoft Teams app. On your left-hand side, you have the application for Microsoft Teams. It's very simple. It's a JSON file and 2 images. It's nothing more than that. That's the stuff you install into Microsoft Teams. The manifest.json file points to other assets. So, for instance, a tab in Microsoft Teams is just another. It's a web application. So it's an iframe. So it points to web application. It's URL. If you have a bot or a messaging extension, it points to a bot ID that you register in Azure, etc., etc. So you can host your stuff wherever you want. So a tab could be both client-side and server-side. You could, for instance, use SharePoint Framework to build a Microsoft Teams tab. With SharePoint Framework, you can only do a client-side application, though. That's the caveat with that. It's a very good way to get started if you want to do client-side development. But in many cases, you want to add bots, messaging extensions, then you need server-side code to host your bot. Then SharePoint Framework is out of question. So, with that, let's switch over to my demo. I think it was number 6. There we are. So let's start at a command prompt. I already pre-created I have a tenant and everything with Microsoft Teams. But we start with the command prompt, and we actually use the Microsoft Teams Yeoman generator to scaffold the project. So I installed the generator already. You will have the links in the slide deck as well if you want to download it. But I type Joe Teams, then I actually do skip install here. And skip install will prohibit downloading the packages from npm, so we save some time there. I will do an offline install later. So when I do that, it will start the generator and ask me a couple of questions. First of all, what's my solution name? And we do THR2005. I want to create my project in this current folder. I want the title of my project, keep the same as the solution. The company name, if you have one. Then you want to specify what version of Manifest you want to use. We support 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5 right now. 1.5 is the latest general available one. There's also dev preview if you want to explore some of the new features coming. We choose 1.5. If you have a partner ID, you can enter that. We skip that. Then you get a selection of different assets to add to your application. So for instance, a tab, or a bot, or an outgoing webhook, connectors, etc., etc. In this case, we add two of them. We use a tab, and we also add a bot. And for the tab, we'll do a client-side implementation, and a bot, the server-side implementation. And depending on what I add or type, choose in here, select in here, I will get follow-up questions. So I'll go through this fairly quickly. So first of all, I need a URL to host my web application. I just click enter here. I will specify that later in the configuration file. I don't want to include any test frameworks. We skip that one. I have an option to add application insights and telemetry, so I can monitor my application. We choose yes on that one. And if I do that, I actually need to enter that app insights key in here. I just skip this and use the default one to go further. We need a tab. Okay, let's just call it what's suggested here. And the tab could either, sorry, I should probably scroll a bit here. If I can do that. I'll make the window smaller so you can see it was in the bottom. A tab can either be configurable or static. Configurable is a tab that can be in a team. A static is a personal tab for use, which is choose configurable. I want this to be in a team only. And as you can see, there's a lot of questions here. We skip the SharePoint Online piece. Then we come to the bot framework questions. Yes, I want to create a new one. The name of my bot. Let's call it just THR2005. I need a bot ID. I already registered a bot ID in Azure, so it's in here where I specified my messaging endpoint for the bot and my app ID for the bot here. That's probably tens of other sessions on how to build actual bots, so we not go through that registration process here. I'll actually just press enter here because I will change this value in a configuration file later anyways. I don't want to add any tabs to my bot. I don't want to have file support. And now it scaffolds out all the required files I need to run this. As I said, I skipped install, so I do an offline install here, and I also need to add an extra package for my server-side implementation, so I need to type pnpm install, and we need to install Azure MS REST JS, I think it's called, and we do an offline install. Offline. We should actually do let's start code first. Pnpm install Azure MS REST JS offline. This will take a minute or two, so we leave it in the background. So I open Visual Studio Code, and this is a file that was scaffolded out for me. First of all, I said I had an environment file here, where I have all my application insights, my settings, etc. The end file here. So this is where you can go in and modify those things afterwards. And that's very easily, so you can have a production one, a test, and a debug one. I have all my variables in here, so we type env. So I have my app ID, my application's instrumentation key. I also use a service called ngrok. And ngrok is one of the key features when you're building Teams applications, because you need to have a public URL when testing your application. So ngrok allows you to have a public URL hosted on your local machine. So it's sort of a proxy. So that is something. It's worth. It costs like $5 a month. It's totally worth that. So that's what I'm using here as well. So let's save the file and let's see what happened. In the background, it installed all the required files I need. So let's start our application. And by doing that, I have a command called gulp ngrok-serve. And that means use ngrok and serve my file from the local, from my local machine, but with the public URL specified in my configuration file. We also do this in debug, and we do no linting, which saves us some time in compilation. So we let that run. Now a couple of things will happen. First of all, you remember the second slide I showed you, we had the manifest. So this manifest is actually in here. It's a JSON file. It contains all the information we specified, and we can add some more. We can add some more descriptions to it. But most importantly, it contains our configurable tab that we added. We can add more of them by running the generator again. It also contained the bot with the bot ID here. And as you can see, I use these replaceable parameters, which are in the .env file, so I don't have to go in and modify them, so I can have different ones in production and test the stage, etc. In the background now, you see the Gulf file task was running, but what it also did is actually package these three files together into a package called THR2005.zip, and that is my Teams application. So let's go to Teams and upload this application. So I have a blank team here, and to sideload something into Microsoft Teams, I click on the team name, click on Apps. In the lower right-hand corner, we have Upload a Custom App, and we click on the zip file. I need to get the correct one. Test THR2005 package, and that's a zip file. So now it will be uploaded. It will be registered in this team only. You can, of course, upload it into the App Store if you wanted to deploy it to multiple teams, but I do it locally here. You will also validate your JSON, so it's correct JSON and everything, and your application will be in here. And now, if we click on the General tab here, we can actually see, since I have a bot in here, it will actually send me a welcome message when I added this application here. So I can give some instructions. What does this application do, for instance? But I added a tab as well, so let's go in there, click on Add a Tab, and here's my tab with an icon that I can, of course, create. And this is just the default experience. We're going to change this in just a minute or two. So we type hello Ignite here, Ignite. So this is configuration page of my tab, and then we, of course, have the tab then. This is just dummy data. That's what we get from default. So we have a sample button. It types the value I typed in configuration dialog. Super simple, but something we can work with. And then we have the bot as well. We can interact with the bot already now. So THR2005 and type hello, and hopefully the bot will answer, yeah, so hello to me. So that's what it does out of the box. So let's take this application. We did that in 10 minutes or so. It's a running application now. It's running now. But let's make it into an Ignite application. Assume that we want to take this tab and show Ignite sessions in here and make it the configuration tab, the configuration dialog. We choose one of the Microsoft products, and then we see all sessions about that one. Let's do that. So as I said, the tab is a client-side implementation, and it's all done in React in this case. That is the preferred way of doing it. There's quite a lot of help if you want to build it using React, but there's nothing prohibiting using, if you want to use Angular or Vue, that's totally up to you to do. But this, the generator will scaffold a React component for you to start with. So under app here, I have scripts, and then I have three different scripts. One for my tab, which is the canvas that we can see, one configuration React component, and one remove React component. So we're going to take a look at the config one first. And this is classic React. How many use React in here? Or have used it? Okay, I'm not going to do deep into it. I'm going to insert some code here, some code snippets. But essentially, a React component has a state. So I need to insert the state here. And in this case, the state will be the different kind of products that we read from a web service. When this page loads, we want to start make it aware of loading. So I set the loading state loading to, need correct keyboard, loading to true. And then once we have everything loaded up, let's call out the web service and load those products that we have for all the Microsoft Ignite sessions. So let's insert something here, tab. Super simple. We use fetch to get from my Azure function, which contains, let me scroll up a bit here so you can see better. This is an Azure function, has an API where I get the products. When I get those products, I set them in the state of the components. Very simple. then finally, we need to render. We change this input that we had to a drop-down so we can choose between these products in the output here. So let's do that, and tab, and let's do render. So here we have a drop-down, and the actual value of that one, or the items, are the sessions we got from the web service. So let's go up here and add drop-down here. Then, of course, we need to modify our actual tab so we can show the sessions for this specific product that we choose here in the configuration. So go to the tab, and the process is fairly similar that we did just recently. We need to add a state, and in this case, the entity ID is this configured value, and items in this case is my sessions for that value. And then we need to load the sessions, and we do that once the Teams component is loaded. So we do the get sessions. Very similar to what we had previously, but we're getting all the sessions for the specific product that we have configured. And then finally, we need to render this as well. So we change the default button that we had in here to something more interesting, like that. So just some essentially React that I copied in here. We don't have to look into that. And then we save our files. We have those two files, save them. If we take a look at the command prompt now, we'll see that it detects that I changed the client file, so it will do my Webpack client command. It will take 9 seconds, 9 seconds, so it have recompiled them into JavaScript. And now if we go into Microsoft Teams again, create a new tab, we click on the same thing that we did previously, take a couple of more seconds, because now it's loading from my Azure function where I had the Microsoft Ignite products. We choose Microsoft 365, click Save. So now I have a proper configuration for that. And now it will actually list the sessions in this. Oh, sorry. I need to say I'm not a UX designer, so that's why it looks like this. But you see, get the point. It's very easy to read data and get into here. So we did that with the tab client side. Let's do the same. Let's make the bot more interesting. Let us allow us to ask the bot about sessions as well. So let's search for sessions using the bot. We have the bot code. It's actually in a folder here. And in this case, we're using the bot framework. It's using an earlier bot framework version. 4.6 was released this last week, which contains some really nice Teams features. But we're using an earlier version here. It doesn't really matter. But in here, as you can see, we have something called a message activity handler, where we get all the messages. And we do a simple comparison. If the text starts with hello, send the hello message, etc., etc., and we do help. And if nothing happens, we just say, hey, I don't understand what you're saying. So let's switch this last one to something more interesting, and actually searching for a session there. So we insert a bot message here. And what now will happen is that we use the same Azure functions, but we search for a session for the text value instead. And what we're doing now is inserting adaptive cards. Adaptive cards is a great technology to represent or semantically represent the card. Adaptivecards.io. If you don't know about that, check that out. But we insert a very simple card with title and description, and then we add that to our bot conversation. I need to add a couple of imports up here before we're done, like that, and then we need to insert sorry, I need this one, the import. And let's save this server file, and then you see same kind of thing we saw previously, compiling the server-side code now. So both the client-side and server-side code are in here, and we should be ready to see what happens. Go to conversations, we do at THR2005, and let's ask them for a session that I do this week. Shameful plug, of course. So it's thinking a bit, asking that web service, then it actually sends back these cards with the title and description, very simple cards, with the sessions that I'm having this week. So super easy way to actually interact, and yeah, of course I can use natural language and all that kind of stuff in here, but I did a simple text comparison, and in many cases that's good enough to do a lookup and whatnot. So I did this in actually 18 minutes, so the Wi-Fi was good. So let's just jump back to the slides here and summarize it. Select, and it's 7, was that? Yes, so you saw the manifest to JSON that we had in there, generated by the generator. We actually created a web application with a set of web pages. I used some web APIs for background jobs. We have a web API for the bot. And all of this is actually, the magic behind this is the Yeoman template generator for Microsoft Teams. So go to aka.ms/yoteams. It's an open source, so if you feel like contributing to it, please go ahead and do a pull request. The demo that I just created, after this I will push it to this GitHub repo that you will find here, so if you want to take a look at the code and what I've done. So with that, it was awesome, and I'm glad I actually managed to do this in 20 minutes. I've never done it in a demo when I tried it out. So the Wi-Fi much better here than down there at the hotel. So thank you very much for coming here. And if you want to see this again, we do this as a repeat on Thursday. Thanks.